Welcome to yet another edition of the kinda, sorta, maybe it's kind of a podcast on ShowbizMonkeys.com. We have a bunch of interviews coming up in the next little while as we gear up for the 2013 edition of the Winnipeg Comedy Festival. So we'll be talking to lots of comics. We've actually talked to a few of them already, and we'll be getting those interviews up soon, as well as a bunch more heading towards April. But before that, we have another comic that I got a chance to speak to recently. He's currently on tour across Canada. He hits up Toronto tonight, March 9th. He'll be in Thunder Bay on Monday, March 11th, and then he'll be visiting various cities throughout Western Canada up until March 23rd. He's based in LA these days, but he's born and bred Canadian, Mr. Jeremy Hotz. Now, when I spoke to him, there was a bit of an issue with the sound. I ended up clearing it up a few minutes into the interview, but the first few minutes, unfortunately and sadly, were unsalvageable. So, what you're going to hear is an interview kind of pick up in the middle. Don't be alarmed, and don't be too bothered by the fact that the first question he's in the middle of answering is about him pissing people off on stage. That's not the first thing that Jeremy wanted to speak about. We talked a little bit about the Just for Laughs festival and the Just for Laughs name and what it means to be a part of a tour sponsored by such an important comedy institution, which he said he was very proud to be a part of, and he was glad that they gave him his first big start at the Just for Laughs festival years ago. But then we started talking about how it is to be on stage and maybe not get the most positive reaction, and that is where the interview picks up. And then we talk about all his acting roles over the years and great people he's met and advice that he likes to give. So take a listen now for Mr. Jeremy Hotz, and go check him out on tour across Canada in March.
Hi, my name's Jeremy Hotz, and welcome to ShowbizMonkeys.com.
Around this town, I'm alright. Around this town, I'm alright. I mean, no consequence when you playing with the fire. Move to the left, man.
If you can really piss off some people, you're doing a damn fine job.
True enough.
Yeah, I saw it on a Twitter that I sucked, and then he quoted jokes, and they were from another guy's act. He had the wrong guy. I laughed out loud when I read that.
Well, yeah. If you're being like virtually heckled for someone else's material, that's
Yeah, that was the high point. And that's when I realized, okay, this Twitter thing is just whatever. Some people are just on there to hate. They don't even know what they're hating. It's hilarious.
I think, yeah, life has probably always been that way. They just now have a source for it, or yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't aware, and probably you weren't, and the world wasn't aware.
Exactly, and now we're all aware.
Yeah, now, yeah. It's funny, isn't it?
It's interesting how things have gone. That's for sure.
Yeah, but if you piss somebody off and they take the time to write it on Twitter, you've won.
Very good. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
Now I want to move into your acting a little bit here.
Right.
Specifically to start with the Newsroom, which I watched a little bit when it was first on, but I was a little young for the target audience at the time. I should have been watching it at the time still, but I don't think it was really on my radar when it came out.
Right.
But then rewatching it a few years afterwards, around like just before it had come back for a couple more seasons, I ended up watching it and falling in love with it and thinking it was probably one of the funniest shows still to this day that's ever been on the air.
I was very fortunate. Yeah, I was very fortunate to get on that show. That was really good. Good for me and good for everybody involved, and it helped the country establish themselves as being able to do a comedy show that was world renowned, which is incredibly rare.
That's exactly what it was. It was world renowned, but it seemed to be off a lot of people's radar for some reason right when it first came out. Do you think it was maybe, I hate to say like too smart for its own good at the time, but maybe just a little bit ahead of its time in what it was doing with television?
I think it was ahead of its time with what it was doing with television, which is great, and I think that it was an important thing, and I think that what hurt it more than anything else was the fact that there weren't enough of them the first season. I think there were only 6.
Yeah.
So it was kind of off the air real quick, and then it kind of came back sporadically. It never really, it was a CBC show, so they didn't really have an agenda. It just came on when they felt like it, You know what I mean? And I think that hurt it.
Now you mentioned that you're grateful to be a part of it. What did you take away from working on that show?
I did Married Life before it with the same director, Ken Finkelman, and so I pretty much, he had this new show called the Newsroom, and he just, I remember him calling me going, "Hey, Hotz, we're going to do a series at the CBC. I'd really like you to be in it." And it was like, okay, absolutely. I mean, I had a great time on Married Life, but what that show taught me was how to be on a series. And that's that's a really valuable experience,
And then that can segue into the new series that I assume, have already filmed episodes for, since it's going to be airing soon. But you've worked on the new season of the show Call Me Fitz.
Yeah, I worked with Jason Priestley on Call Me Fitz. Those haven't aired yet. You're right. I believe that season starts in September, and that's on the HBO. So that was a great thing, and that's when I really realized the impact of the Newsroom, because I'd moved to America, and I did a couple of pictures and stuff, but I never really, that's when I really leaned on the stand up, because that's what I really enjoyed doing. And then when I came back and I did Priestley's show, and the crew and the rest of the cast, they kind of looked at me like, they just accepted me right away. I just respect from being on the Newsroom. So I didn't really realize it until I kind of got to Halifax and got on that set, but that was a great experience as well.
And it was nice jumping back into episodic television again.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I had a great time, and it brought me back to those old days. And it's a really tight cast, and everybody was really, really cool to me. And the way that came about is there's an interesting story, because they were looking for this guy, to play like this, kind of miserable social worker that was really kind of garbage at his job, and just not very attentive, and they couldn't cast it, and they had looked at so many people, and they called and said, could you put yourself on tape? And I'm like, well, no, I don't have a camera or nothing. So my manager called me and said, just get someone to put it on your iPhone, just tape it on your iPhone. And I'm like, are you sure? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So I got Tanya Allen, who was on the Newsroom with me. She played the girl on the Newsroom. She came over with her. And taped me on my iPhone, and then I don't know. It took us about 2 hours to figure out how to upload it to the internet to send to them. But we finally figured it out. And then about an hour later, they phoned and said, "Hey, you want to be this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, sure, no problem." So if you want to be an actor, get an iPhone.
Yeah, get an iPhone and figure out how to upload videos, and that's It's interesting, with everything being accessible so easily online, how you can kind of do a quick audition, I guess, or screen test that way, and
that's what it was. It was a screen test shot on a telephone.
Yeah.
Time to change, huh, man?
Yeah. Try telling yourself that when you were starting your stand-up career. That you'd be...
No. I auditioned for that role sitting on my couch. I mean, how convenient is that?
Exactly. How much of the new season are you in?
It started off as one episode and then turned into 4 very quickly. So yeah, because there's only I think there's 10 of them only. So I just kept going back to Halifax for a while. It was great. It was really great. Yeah,
it's not a bad place to get sent to.
Yeah, and I guess when they start adding you to episodes, I remember one of the episodes, the scenes weren't even written, so they showed up like I got there and then I got the script. I hadn't even read it, and then
wow, like okay, yeah, we found a place for you.
And then the next day, we shot it, so that was pretty cool.
Now looking back at this lengthy career in stand-up, of course, and television, have there been any moments that have come along where you, not necessarily big monumental career advancing moments, but just moments where you've realized, I can't believe I'm right here right now. This is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, 2 weeks ago I was at the Laugh Factory and Rihanna came into the club.
Okay.
And I guess she was just sort of, unwinding, I guess, from her giant singing career. And she was at the show, and I went up. And I guess they were hustling her out the back door because they didn't want anyone to see her, to bother her in the nightclub. So they were hustling her out the back, and I just happened to be standing there, and she grabbed my arm and said, "You were amazing." And I didn't really, I was kind of not paying attention, and I actually said, "Thanks, sugar." And then she smiled and walked out the door, and there was a guy from the Rolling Stone magazine who was doing a profile on her, which nobody knew. And he wrote the whole thing. He wrote the whole thing in the article.
That
so that was a cool moment.
Yeah, Rihanna loves Jeremy Hotz, and Jeremy Hotz called her sugar.
Yeah, I did do that by mistake.
or not. I'm sure it's a
so embarrassing.
It's a nice pleasantry.
Yeah, I listen. I meant no disrespect, obviously. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I just performed. I wasn't really paying attention, as me as usual. And people come up to me after my show all the time and shake my hand, and I wasn't really paying attention. So the one time I meet like a real top celebrity, I blow it.
But I'm sure she appreciates not getting a nervous, awkward. Oh, thank you, Miss Rihanna. Thanks.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right? Like I would never do that anyway. So
right.
I guess whatever. It all worked out. And the other one was Jerry Lewis. That Lewis thing was fantastic. Jerry Lewis came into the club, and I knew he was there, and I went on, and he came up to me afterwards, and he said, "You're funny. Look at your face. That's a great face. You were fantastic." And I said, "Hey, can I get a picture with you? Because, childhood hero sort of thing. Saw your movies when they were even in black and white." And he said, "Absolutely." And I took a picture and got to post it on Facebook. And I haven't gotten so many likes for anything I've ever posted on that as much as that Jerry Lewis shot,
Yeah, well, when you meet such legendary people like that, it's...
Yeah, legend. He's a legend, That's pretty cool. 87 years old, that man.
And still going.
And he comes out to a comedy club. Isn't that fantastic?
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool.
Do you think when I'm sure you've been doing this long enough that you get quite a bit of people coming up to you asking for photos and things like that? Do you see yourself in that kind of, like, maybe not at the Jerry Lewis level, but certainly at this level where a lot of people have come to know you for quite some time and look up to you in that way?
Yeah.
Is it weird to be in that position?
Yeah, I'm getting used to it now. So you're right. That's something that takes a little getting used to. But you're correct. That does happen a lot. And hey, I always make the time for people because as much as I can, because I want them to walk away and go, "Hey, Andy's a nice guy."
Yeah. And then finally, kind of along those lines, I guess, because of your, all the success that you've had with your stand-up career, do you get a lot of younger comics coming up to you, whether it be at Just for Laughs or when you work in the Laugh Factory, someone that's coming up playing through there, that ask for advice from you? And do you even know what to really tell them when you have legitimate comics trying to get advice from someone as experienced as yourself?
Yeah, I think they do ask me questions and stuff, and I try to answer them as best as I can. But success in stand-up is so random, So it's really difficult, and really what they want to know is, how do I get up there?
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, it as far as I can say, it just happens. It just happens.
Yeah, you just gotta do it, and then let
keep showing up.
Yeah.
Keep doing it. Keep showing up. And I'm lucky because I can't do anything else, so I gotta show up.
Well, luckily it worked out quite well for you then, if that's the case.
Yeah, really lucky. The one smart decision I made in my life was to be a stand-up. Everything else I've blown.
Well, yeah. So you're hitting the road very soon. Well, you're already in Toronto, but I guess you're heading to the first date within the next few days to go across country over the next month. So you're looking forward to seeing the country that way.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going back and performing for the Canadians again. Even though I moved and everything, it's still my country, man. You know what I mean? And the people even though I've lived in the States for 15 years, I'm still Canadian. And when I come back, I'm reminded that I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And that's, even though Americans look like us and sound like us, they're the most un-Canadian people I've ever met in my life.
ShowbizMonkeys.com